So conservationists are mounting legal challenges to two major developments in the north, the far north, to save the rare and threatened Kaimaumau wetlands. And everyone needs to ask themselves, and those who are still addicted to industrialisation and commodification of our natural resources at the expense of environmental well-being, and at the expense of human rights, especially our iwi authorities who are still wedded to the industrial model, we need to ask ourselves, what's the point of economic development that annihilates the natural environment, that destroys whānau and communities' freshwater supplies? And by the way, that's a violation of affected citizens' human right to access clean water. Just saying. And economic development that sucks up the water for avocadoes to be exported, most of them are exported overseas, and selling them off to for a few companies and for private corporate profit. Some of those companies that are involved in the Te Huku aquifer resource consent extraction for horticulture are owned by overseas interests. So all that wealth is being exported away. But while families right here who need food can't even afford to buy the avocados if they're here domestically sold in New Zealand, they can't even afford it. So what's the point of that? And we've got to ask ourselves, when are the so-called captains of industry, these capitalists, going to accept that their way of exploiting resources is, one, a demonstrably failed economic model? Failed. It's got to be failed. I mean, sure, it provided some things we need, right? But it's provided more bads than it has goods. Like more poor and disenfranchised people than we've ever had. And that's to say we're basically on the sliding scale, on the spectrum of slavery. That's what that's essentially saying. We're all slaves. With our planet's wealth and power relentlessly concentrating into the hands of like an ever-decreasing circle of really rich elites, really rich and wealthy people, obscenely rich and wealthy, while the rest of us are in poverty, basically. And most of those obscenely rich elites are, got to point out the obvious, white men. So down with oppressive patriarchy. That's what I got to say about that. And up with wahine and strong women who we need to take back our power in our world for the sake of our tamariki mokopuna and future generations, while there's still something left to salvage before it's all gone. And when are these captains of industry, these capitalists, going to accept that it's a failed operating system they're using, it's unsustainable, and it's a direct driver of the sixth mass extinction of life on planet Earth? Yeah, that's pretty big. And those captains of industry they lost their social license a long time ago to keep doing this to us, to continue their death machine of industrial expropriation of our natural resources and exploiting our natural resources and externalizing the cost of their production of their goods and services, be it avocados or whatever it is. They're pushing all the costs of production onto our environment and onto society, and it's got to stop. And either these guys, mostly guys, not exclusively, but mostly men, they got to voluntarily get with the program of moving not just to a sustainable model, because sustainability has been captured by propagandists. It's been propagandized to mean, business as usual, really, maybe tweaking around the edges, but let's keep it sustainable, just humming along. No, it's too late for that model was proved to be wrong. It's killing our planet. Now we have to move to a regenerative model of business, a regenerative business model. Either these captains of industry do that, or we the people will, out of sheer frustration of being ignored now for so long, we're going to justifiably get angsty and grumpy, and we're going to force the capitalists to either change their model, or we're going to retire you, fire you, terminate you. Not in a, like, you know, way, but your business, you'll be out. Like how, oh God, I don't want to mention that unmentionable person whose favorite line is, "You're fired, you're fired." So yeah, that's what came to mind when I heard this Radio New Zealand report on the conservationist NGOs and Department of Conservation standing up for our Kaimaumau wetland, which is really symptomatic of a bigger picture of a failed economy and economic model. So people, take note and start to get involved and take your power back.